There's an epidemic happening in the automotive industry, and it's affecting your vehicle. If you own anything newer than probably a 2016, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, domestic vehicle, mostly Dodges and Chevys, a little bit of Fords, but pretty much anything with an independent rear suspension these days has these bushings in them that are made out of plastic. Of all things, plastic in your important suspension or steering bushing, tie rod, ball joints, you name it. That used to be made out of solid rubber with a steel sleeve in the middle. I thought we were supposed to be getting rid of plastic here, but apparently they're just hiding it in behind these little rubber dust covers. And they shouldn't be there. For the main reason is they don't hold up. All right? Now, these manufacturers have hired engineers to design these vehicles to just past their warranty, so that you got to pay full price to fix these things up after. And it's not right. And I'm not going to stand for it anymore. And neither should you. We all got to stick together here and stick it to these guys and tell them to smarten up. You want to save the planet? Well, get rid of the plastic out of these friggin' vehicles that we pay $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 for. It's not right. They're cheaping out on the parts, and they're doubling the price. It doesn't make sense. If you can build something for cheaper, well, the end price should go down for the consumer, not up. Now, I've been in this business for a long time now, close to, well, over 20 years now. Most of my time as a journeyman mechanic, and I started off in the parts business. And there hasn't been a time in my career that I have been so frustrated with cheap, low-quality parts that I have been motivated to make this video to show you guys what your vehicle is actually made out of and what you're paying for. Plastic parts in your steering and suspension, very important bushings that control your tires, that shouldn't be there. And I'm sick of it. Wiggle up and down like that. Okay. Low quality parts found in most domestic vehicles. Chrysler, Ford, Chevy, they all use them. Lower ball joint. Mostly found in independent rear suspension vehicles, using plastic in their bushings, as well as tie rods and ball joints, and pretty much all your steering components. Can I give her a side to side? Okay. Why is this an issue? Well, how does plastic hold up against steel? You know? You got a chunk of plastic, you got some steel. your suspension, every time you go over a bump, that steel is pounding into that plastic. Okay? And we all know how brittle plastic is and how flexible it is and how soft it is compared to steel. That steel is going to win every time. You know, you hit it so many times, eventually it's going to get some play in it, and then all of a sudden your tires are going wherever the hell they want because there's nothing holding them in place anymore. And you end up scrubbing the insides of your tires off like this. These tires came off of a Dodge, what was that, a Liberty or a Journey, I can't remember, a Compass, maybe. They're all use the same stuff. Same friggin' garbage. And I'm sick of it. It's ridiculous. You know, there should be a lawsuit happening. And I would urge everyone who owns one of these vehicles to contact their dealer and tell them how frustrating it is to have these, how pissed off you are to drive one of these things and keep spending money on the suspension and tires that only last for probably 40,000 kilometers. The only way we're going to stop this is to everybody take a stand and say no. Say no to plastic in your suspension parts. Stop buying these cheap parts, and you know, you usually get what you pay for when it comes to automotive parts. And you know, these I can understand where these parts dealerships are coming from, because you know, they get all these parts for such a low cost that they can afford to stock a lot of different options for people and stay in business, and they sell a whole lot of them, so why not keep on buying them, you know? But for the consumer, they think they're getting a good deal, but you know, a few months down the road, or even days, I've had brand new parts come in that people have installed and claim they just put it in a week ago, and I'm calling it shot, and it's brand spanking new. It looks, you know, fresh paint. They haven't even got it dirty yet, and there's play in these ball joints and bushings. And why? There's no reason for that. Plastic does not belong in suspension bushings. Steering components, get it out of there. You want to ban plastics? Well, get it the hell out of these friggin' cars. Get it the hell out of these Journeys and friggin' Liberties and Trail Blazers. What are they called? The Chevy versions of, you know, what are they called? Traverses. Yeah, Grand Cherokees. And they're called Trailhawks. They're supposed to be able to handle a little bit of rough terrain, you know. But not with these parts in them. Dodge with their CV joints. The boots on them are made out of such a hard plastic that they rip open in no time. I'm constantly changing out these CV boots and axles, the whole CV shaft assemblies, because the cages that they use that hold the ball bearings inside the joints are breaking apart and ending up on the road and then ending up in your tires. Probably just as common as finding a nail or a screw in your tire. Not quite that common, but probably the next in line for you know. But yeah, I'm just sick of it, and I figured you should know what your vehicle is actually made out of, and it definitely doesn't justify the price that you're paying for these things. You don't find these parts in Toyotas or Hondas. You know, they still use a good solid rubber bushing and nice good sized tie rods and ball joints and CV shafts, And it's time for the domestic manufacturers to get on board and do the same, because in a time of throwaway vehicles, we should be making something that lasts. And we'll have a whole lot of happier people, and some people who can afford to put the fuel in, and maybe not work so hard, and have a lot better mental health. It'll go a long ways, and the way we're going to beat this thing is to stop buying these things. The parts people need to stop stocking the cheap parts and start stocking quality parts. That's the way around it. I like to refuse to put in any of these parts into these vehicles if I can help it. We always recommend the better quality ones, and a lot of times you can find the better quality ones. You're going to pay extra for them, but they're going to last. But for the most part, like the replacement parts for these bushings here, they're built just the same as the original ones, plastic, and they don't hold up. It wasn't long ago when these things were made out of solid rubber, and we never had a problem with them. You could go hundreds of thousands of kilometers without changing them out. And, like anything, eventually they will wear out, but not nearly as fast as plastic. We're going to dissect some of these parts, and I'll show you exactly what's inside of them. going to show you a little clip of a GMC truck. It's a 2017 worked on today, and the upper control arms and lower control arms, they've changed from a solid steel control arm like this here. Control arm, solid steel, forged for longevity and strength, with a ball joint that you can change out 1,000,000 times with no trouble at all. And now look what they're made out of. Now they're using, like, I would call it decorative material. So thin, it's the bare minimum size of material that you could use to just barely hold together. And there's no clip holding in the upper ball joint like you would find like on an aftermarket ball joint that's pressed in like that. Usually there's a little snap ring down near the bottom that holds it from popping out. And a few weeks ago I had a customer come in. He's got a 2019 or 2020 Chevy half-ton, same upper ball joint, upper control arm style, and he was driving down through Edmonton, and he says he was just driving down the road, and then all of a sudden his steering wheel, he had to correct a whole bunch and drive back home that way. He thought he was just tired and had to hold the wheel one way for some reason, but it turned out that his upper ball joint popped out, and he claimed he didn't hit any big holes or anything that he remembered. Just driving down the road, and all of a sudden, pop, out it come. And that really shouldn't be happening on a brand like a 3-year-old vehicle with very low miles. They used to be made out of solid steel, and the lower control arms as well, they were solid steel, forged for longevity and strength. Like, nice and beefy, you could change out 1,000,000 ball joints in them, and that control arm would still be good. Now they're a 2-piece stamped steel, welded together. Light material. And the manufacturers are claiming that they're using these really light parts to save on fuel. And sure, yeah, it's good on saving on fuel, but instead of spending your money on fuel, you're spending money on parts, trying to keep this thing together. And so if they're cheaping out on these parts, on the materials to build the vehicle, well, to me, the price should go down, shouldn't it? If you're building it for cheaper, why not pass on the savings to the customer, to the consumer? But no, the prices have doubled. It's insane, and it's got to stop. The only way it's going to stop is for us to stop buying these things and start buying quality parts and quality vehicles. And maybe they'll change their ways. You don't find these parts in a Toyota, that's for sure. They still use a good solid rubber bushing, like oversized, nice big CV shafts and differentials, rack and pinions. Nice big heavy duty parts that can hold up and last throughout most of the life of the vehicle with hardly any trouble. And you know, it's time for these domestic manufacturers to get on board and start doing the same, because wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Alright, well, I'm out of here. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something today. And well, hey, if you want to do your part in saving the planet, say no to plastic.